Hello everybody, this is Albert with Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today I'm going to give a couple reasons why tea is healthier for you than coffee. Now before we begin, I recommend you check out our back catalog of episodes. In particular, I'll put some that are germane to this topic today. So it's the irresistible force versus the immovable object, coffee versus tea. Look, a lot of people like both, and then you have people who only like one. I think that a lot of people who drink coffee also drink teas or herbals. But there are going to be a segment of people who really only drink tea and barely ever, if ever, drink coffee. Now, I've talked about it here, if you've watched these chronologically, that I haven't had coffee in 30 years since I was in college. And we'll talk about this in a second on the couple of reasons why tea is better for you than coffee. But I think that in general, the most Americans probably drink a mixture of both. I would say certainly with women, I think herbals or tisanes are much more common with women than with men. So I think if you look at a typical kind of stratum of a 42-year-old woman or something like that, a lot of them are going to be drinking coffee, but they're also going to be drinking chamomile, peppermint, stuff like that. Now, coffee and tea are the two biggest beverages that you will find on an airplane, at a coffee shop, or wherever you're at. And you might wonder, like, which is healthier? Now, as the curator of the Green Tea House, I, of course, would hazard to say that I am somewhat biased. But I think the reasons I'm going to give that tea are healthier than coffee, I think are quite cogent. And you can certainly post in the comments if you are an avid coffee drinker, if you don't agree with me. Now, I've talked about this episode, or this topic kind of tangentially in the episode on how 3 ways coffee shops ruin your tea order. And I talked about it, and I want to mention this. So the local paper, God bless them, did a write-up on Green Tea House. God bless them. This came out on February 21st. Now, I think at the time when this article was written, I think only we had 27 episodes on Green Tea House, the YouTube channel out, and this is like episode 106, so you can tell I really queue up these videos way ahead of time. But I want to thank the newspaper, in particular Hannah Thompson, who did the write-up for us. We really appreciate that. And I talk about it in that episode, how in many places, tea is like a second-class citizen. If you go to a coffee shop, and of course coffee shops are much more common than tea shops. You won't find tea shops unless you're like in very large cities, or if you're in New Braunfels, Texas. But in general, tea is a second-class citizen in a coffee shop. Most coffee shops, I mean, as expected, the whole raison d'etre of existence is coffee, and then they'll have some teas, typically tea bag teas, just kind of like for people who want a tea, but really the priority is coffee, and it's completely understandable. I would tell you, tea is healthier than coffee for 2 big reasons. 1, tea has more catechins than coffee. Look it up. So what are catechins? We talked about this on the episode on the 3 healthiest teas you should drink. And we have another episode here on the health benefits of tea. So catechins are a type of antioxidants. What are antioxidants? Antioxidants fight against free radical damage. They fight against inflammation. Our body is constantly fighting inflammation all the time and free radical damage, because free radical damage is just a byproduct of cellular respiration and just cellular existence. So our body is always being broken down and having problems. Just like the argument for cancer, like all of us on some level have cancer, because cancer is irregular cell growth, but the immune system is able to knock this out. So it's really important that the immune system has this ability to regulate free radical damage. And so we can supplement this by ingesting foods and drinks that have a lot of catechins. Tea has tons of catechins, tons of antioxidants, and there's different types, polyphenols, flavonoids, and whatnot. And so tea, the Camellia sinensis plant, has more than the Assamica coffee bean. It just does. And so for that reason, tea is healthier. Now, I'm not going to say that there aren't health benefits to coffee. Like it gives you improved cognition. It can speed up your metabolism. It can lower your chances of getting colon cancer. There's some studies that suggest that. But all those 3 things you can find in Camellia sinensis, all 3 of them. And so, plus you're getting more catechins and you're getting more anti-inflammatories by drinking tea. In particular, the teas that have been no oxidized or lightly oxidized. So that's going to be white tea, green tea, yellow tea. So that's case number 1. Case number 2 is the caffeine. So caffeine, of course, is the most commonly consumed stimulant in the world, but it's also the most studied stimulant in the world. So we have a lot of research on what caffeine does to the body. And we know how caffeine in coffee responds to the body differently than caffeine in tea. And what do we know? We know two big principles. One, and any of you drink coffee or used to drink coffee but can't drink it anymore know this, that coffee hits the body faster than tea. The caffeine in coffee hits that nervous system really fast. And some people love that jolt, and some people, it's too much. Secondly, we know that coffee as a whole has more caffeine than tea. In an average cup of coffee, it's about 95 grams. In an average cup of tea, now again, this is gonna range depending on how much leaves you're using, how long you're steeping it, but the average is about 40. And you can even go lower, like if you drink hojicha, I mean, it's even lower than that. And it can go higher than that, like gyokuro or matcha can be higher than that. But as a whole, if we had to make generalizations, coffee has twice as much caffeine. So you're looking at that thing. So it has more caffeine, plus it's going to affect you quicker. So you're more likely, if you drink coffee, to get the adverse effects of quick caffeine ingestion, which is what? Anxiety, nervousness, heart palpitations, jitteriness. You also get the spike in caffeine, then the crash in caffeine. Now, why don't you get the spike in caffeine with the crash of caffeine in tea? Aha, that's L-theanine. So L-theanine is a compound that's found in the Camellia sinensis plant, not in coffee, that acts as a kind of like a buffer to the caffeine that we take. So when you drink tea, L-theanine steadies that caffeine release in the bloodstream and in the nervous system. So whereas in coffee, it's like boom, boom, and then I need more coffee 3 hours later, boom, and boom, and boom, and boom. And I'm like Lorelai Gilmore and Gilmore Girls, who's always drinking coffee. With tea, it's different. L-theanine allows the caffeine to be released at a steady state. And so when you're drinking tea, even if you're drinking like the average Turk drinks 12 cups a day, when you're drinking tea throughout the day, it's a steadiness. It's a steadiness. So it gives you an alertness, but you're not overly agitated that you commonly see with coffee drinkers. And so it just kind of gives you this nice alertness throughout the day. Now, coffee lovers are going to say, well, you know, that I don't respond to coffee that way. I can drink coffee at 9 o'clock and I can go to sleep. I don't get the jitteriness with coffee. Of course, well, everybody is different. But as a whole, these two things are very big. Tea has more anti-inflammatory agents that fight against free radical damage, therefore fight against cancer and other things that can hurt us. And it has less caffeine, and the caffeine that it has a slower release because of L-theanine. And for these two big reasons, yes, tea is healthier for you than coffee, even though coffee does have some health benefits as well. Guys, post in the comments. I'd like to hear from you. Until next time, take care and God bless.